Marco. Usually I spend a couple of minutes talking about myself, but after such a great introduction from Horacio, we can gloss over it today. I work in a company called ThoughtWorks. We are a consultancy company that is always pushing the envelope, always working on the cutting edge of technology and of innovation. You might have used some of the tools we created, such as Selenium. We invented CI/CD. We wrote over 100 books over the years that served as the basis of the, we could say, the majority of the IT knowledge. Over the last 6 to 8 months, we have 3 books that came out, so Facilitating Software Architecture, Continuous Deployment, and Designing Cloud-Native Delivery Systems, but it's an ongoing process. So new books are coming out every few months. About the agenda for today, we have a little bit of an introduction around what it means to measure developer productivity, what the good practices might look like, what the bad practices are, and then what data tells us about measuring developer productivity. So without further ado, before we start, I wanted to check a little bit with the audience. So who tried to measure developer productivity before? Good chunk. Who succeeded? One. We have half. Two halves. We have 2 half heroes. So let's see if we can increase the number by the end of the talk. So before we start, we need to set up the stage and understand a few concepts. So when we start measuring something, it stops becoming a measure. It becomes a goal, and people will try to cheat the system. The system will try to cheat the system itself. So we need to be aware of the goal we set for the system and what we get as a response. It's important to have goals, to have targets, but culture in a company is what drives the business going forward. We have a very good statement there, a quote. I was told I shouldn't read quotes in the talk, so please have a look. And very importantly, when we talk about developer productivity, we want to refer to the way in which a developer can deliver on their goals and on their task in a frictionless manner. We don't aim directly at the individual performance of a single developer. So I know this might be a turn off already, but that's how things are. Then what should we measure? It's very easy to measure inputs and outputs, so how much time we spend on a task, and how much lines of code or how many stories we can complete in a sprint. Those are very easy to track, very easy to understand, but are they useful? Probably not. It's much more effective to measure the outcomes. So what are the effects on the system? So how does the system change because of what we delivered? And what are the business impacts that result from our change? So we spent a month delivering this new feature. Did we see an uptake in the sign up for new leads? Did we see an improvement in customer retention? Are our customers spending on average more money on our platform because of what we implemented? That's something that can drive the business value, and we can actually benchmark effectively. So what are the good practices when it comes to developer productivity? So productivity can be thought of as the value delivered over an amount of time. So it could be a sprint, it could be a calendar year, how much value we deliver over that amount of time, we say it's the productivity. Then, of course, a manager has the expectation that we pay people very well. Of course, we always pay people very well. And over time, we pay them even better. So productivity should also increase, because if we deliver 100 units this year, next year, we are going to be spending more, so it has to be more than 100, right? It's fair. It's fair to have that assumption, but it might not always be the case. So if that is not the case, we need to understand why we're not improving, or sometimes you also regress and have a less productivity because of a number of factors that we'll cover. If we then have a standardized measure of productivity across teams and departments, we might even consider comparing different teams. Teams, not individuals. But of course, for this, we need to agree what a story point is, perhaps what an epic is, what a bug is, and then we can draw some comparison and see the evolution over time. Snapshots are never useful, even at the team level. Looking at individuals is, in general, bad practice, but at the team level, it's something that can guide us in the right direction. So, are we all familiar with qualitative and quantitative metrics? Should we give an introduction? Anybody? Okay, it wasn't very convincing, so I'm gonna cover it. So, by quantitative metrics, we mean a metric that is a number essentially that can be extracted via an algorithm or via a process, and we don't need humans involved. So it could be how many commits or how many merge requests we close in a given day, or how many story points we complete in a sprint. While qualitative metrics are really about, do the developers have the right tools to perform the job? Do they have the right skill set, the right knowledge? Are there very frail CI/CD pipelines that break every other day and everybody's blocked? Those are very difficult to isolate when we use quantitative metrics, because there's no single way to elicit that information. But when we do use qualitative metrics, the developers, especially when they are frustrated, they'll get, fuck, this doesn't work. So that's a very good way to combine them both. And frameworks such as Space and Dora do that. So you do, Space and EEBO do have that. Dora is perhaps the most famous quantitative metrics framework, and serves as the basis of every measure that we will cover. So if we try to measure productivity at the individual level, developers will try to cheat the system. So they will try to understand what we are trying to optimize, and they will work in that way. So if we say, very basic example, our metric is number of commits. We will see 1,000 commits of one line each. The metric has improved. If we circle back on outcomes and business impacts, has that yielded any significant result? Probably not. We might. I would be surprised, but it might. So it's important to focus at the team level, because then developers feel less pressure to cheat the system. It's really about how the team works as a unit, and if there's somebody that needs help, you help them, and you're not competing against them. Then developer well-being is also very important, so that developers are not overstressed, they are not working 50 or 60 hours on a continuous basis, and so that they have that peace of mind and freedom to make experimentation, try out new things, and see that they can learn and progress and get better over time. Also, investing money in the right tools, whenever, for instance, now there's a lot of talk about AI, of course. Having something like Copilot is perhaps a very quick and cheap win in terms of productivity, and there shouldn't really be any debate on buying the best tools for your developers. Okay, so this was at a glance like what the good practices are. We're going to have a lot more fun now talking about the bad ones. So when we focus on a single developer productivity, again, developer will try to cheat the system. We will also lose their trust. And of course, it means that the developer is not motivated enough to do their job efficiently. So the metric will look good, because that's what the developer will do, but then the result will not be effective. Other vanity metrics or other vanity goals that I've heard many times is that a developer should have 70% of their time coding, because meetings are not important, because reading documentation or writing documentation is not important. Writing code is the only thing that matters, right? If only it was so easy. And again, focusing on simple inputs and outputs, it's very easy to get a crack on your metrics and say, okay, we measure how much time we spent on fixing bugs, how much time it takes to get a code to production, but we're not measuring what the business value actually is. So these are called vanity metrics for a reason, because they don't serve any actual business value. Another unexpected result, actually, I would say unexpected for the developers, but expected by the manager, is that if you focus on individual performance, you can then draw a rank and say, this developer is a star because they deliver so many story points each sprint, while this other one, what are they even doing here? And you lose all the nuances, such as who's helping who, who's picking up the slack when the lead is off, who's talking with the clients when there's a bug. So always taking this simplistic approach can lead to your downfall. So be very careful with this. If we just look at the numbers, we have an incomplete vision of what productivity means. So numbers are fine. They're very easy to gather. We don't need to get developers to fill in surveys, but they serve up to a certain point. Then to get the full picture, you need to complement them with qualitative metrics, which most often is bi-monthly survey that you send to half your team and see if things are getting better. So if we talk about domain knowledge and you see that there's a lack of it, you can set up some time or some session where you have business expert or SME coming in, giving those sessions, and then you track the improvement. One of the most effective ways to improve efficiency is look at where the bottlenecks are. So if we look at the end result, we didn't complete the sprint in time, our feature did not reach production by the time we agree with the client, it's very easy to get annoyed with the team because they committed to the work and then they couldn't. But tools such as the retrospective can help us there. And of course, it's important that they are blameless, but it's important, even more important, to get to the root of the issue. So the team could not complete the work in time. Why? Because the pipeline was always broken. Why? Because the tools we use are in beta, or because we are paying for 5 licenses and we have 5,000 developers, so it doesn't scale, or there can only be one pipeline run at a time, and there's a bottleneck. So it's very important to ask, for instance, the 5 whys and get to the root of the problem and understand where the inefficiencies really are. Lack of documentation, very common. Who needs documentation? Everybody. So those are the most common pitfalls when it comes to developer productivity. But there's also data, so empirical data about how we can improve developer productivity. So the first one that stands out is having a generative culture in your enterprise. By generative culture, we mean a culture where the leaders set the vision, and then they get out of the way, and they let the teams and the developers implement it. So we see that there's a strong correlation between a generative culture and a strong improvement in team organization and operational performance, software delivery performance, CI and CD, and job satisfaction, and a strong negative correlation with burnout. So if our teams feel empowered to follow the course of action that is set by leadership, but they don't feel that they are being micromanaged, you have all of these nice results. Okay, one common problem that developer teams could have is that they don't understand the users. So there are very often several layers of separation between the developers and the users. I've seen many a time when the developers had never spoken to a user. They don't know where they are, they don't know what they want to do, they don't know what their business problem is. And when that happens, there's very little motivation to write great software because you can't empathize with the user, you can't empathize with somebody you don't know if your application doesn't do what they want. So having sessions with those users, maybe sometimes even recorded sessions, or being able to ask questions to the users can improve engagement for the developers and also improve the productivity. So when a team builds the product with the user in mind, there's a strong correlation with team performance and productivity. How many people here use code reviews or merge? Okay, the majority. How many people use trunk-based development? Trunk-based, like no review. So I noticed some hands didn't go up, so are you using something else? There's also the possibility to learn something every day. So when you do use code reviews, you have the problem of the lead time to get the code reviewed. So I might spend 2 days writing a piece of code or fixing a bug, and then I ask somebody to review it, and everybody's busy with their own work, or maybe they just don't like me. Hopefully not, but so they need to stop the flow and get on my code, come up with suggestions, and then maybe I need to make further adjustments and then ask for another review. So this can span sometimes days, sometimes even weeks if the merge request or the pull request is big. So decreasing the speed for code review is strongly correlated with delivery and operational performance. And again, there's a strong negative correlation with burnout. So the shorter it gets to get the code review, the better the operational performance, and we reduce significantly the level of frustration for the developers. Another important thing, loosely coupled architecture. If we work in a microservice, rather than microservice, I would say domain-driven design architecture, where a team is responsible for their own domain and they can decide the life cycle, when to go to production, which bugs to fix, without having to orchestrate every single change with other teams. We see a very big uptick in team and organizational performance, and again, a very big reduction in burnout. The data available about AI is still a little bit controversial. So it helps with individual well-being measures. Where were we? So teams with shorter code reviews time have 50% software delivery, 50% better software delivery performance. So this is something you can probably take home. Documentation should be the pillar of an effective team. Spending time writing documentation shouldn't be an afterthought, shouldn't be something done after the sprint is complete or the release is complete. It should be something that is done as part of the story you're working on. There are positive aspects in both the individual metrics, such as the satisfaction, productivity, and the reduction in burnout, and also at the group level with a strong uptick in team organization performance. If you use trunk-based development, again, trunk-based development is the practice where everybody commits to master. A person commits to master, another person rebase, commits to master. Very useful with pair programming. Doesn't need to be with pair programming, but it's very effective. So when people use trunk-based development, quality documentation leads to a 12-fold increase in performance. How many people are how many people have issues with their current CI/CD? Okay, not so many. So having your system to be reliable, meaning that your production environment doesn't stop working every other minute, or your deployment to production doesn't break when you have a critical feature to deploy, results in big operational improvements for the entire company. When a company starts working on it, it takes some time to see a return on investment. So it's very difficult to say, let's improve the resiliency of our production system and of our CI/CD, and then next week we see the results. So there's going to be a constant investment that is required before you start seeing results, and it's important to stick through it, even if you don't see the results as fast as you wished. Whenever there's a production incident, it's paramount to have blameless postmortem. Whenever there's an issue with the pipeline, just avoid skipping the step, have an analysis of why it went wrong, and make sure that it doesn't happen again, and make sure that the team can fix the issue they are presented with. So if there's a pipeline issue, make sure that the teams have the rights and the knowledge to fix it. If there's an issue in production, make sure that they have the capacity to log into the production system and fix it. How many people are using public clouds like AWS, GCP, Azure? Okay, good, the majority. So public clouds is associated with an improvement in productivity, but it's a correlation, not a causation. The decisive factor is flexible infrastructure. So the possibility to spin up new infrastructure on demand without having to go through the CFO approving the additional expense, or being able to scale when there's a peak demand is, again, increased with improved performance. So it's not really about the public cloud, it's about flexible infrastructure. If you have a private cloud that can do that, that's all the merrier. When we do work assignment for a lead, it's very easy to think about, there's a UI task, we have the UI expert, so they get all the work for UI because they are very quick and very good doing that. That's a very easy way to do work assignment, but we should probably consider also what the people want to work on. So maybe the UI expert is tired of changing button colors 8 hours per day. And maybe somebody who's been working on the SQL optimization for the last 12 months would like a change of scenery. So accommodating those requests, making sure that people are working on what they'd like to work whenever it's possible, improve motivation, and reduces burnout. There are a number of talks here about developer experience, so we won't cover it in depth. But all the measures, all the steps we can take to reduce the frictions in creating new repositories, deploying to productions, having automated monitoring, logging, performance testing. Those are steps that improve the efficiency not only of the given team, but of the entire organization. So we cover a lot of ground. We probably haven't addressed the big elephant in the room, which is what do we do when somebody is struggling? Have you had this issue before? Yes. Okay, so in literature, usually employees are ranked as A player, B player, and C player, with A player being the rock stars, about a 10%, B players being solid players that can work well within the company, can tackle a number of different scenarios, and then there's the bottom 10%, which are mostly considered slower in terms of delivery or in terms of contribution than the rest of the company. What's the problem with those C players? When they are involved in doing interviews, they try to bring in more C players. They can block other A and B player from getting promoted or getting career advancement, and replacing them can become costly over time. So the plan, one of the most recommended plans is the 3 Cs. So the first one is conversing, which is understanding why this person is not delivering as expected. It's important to gather qualitative metrics from the peers. So it cannot only be about story points, again, because those people might be doing other work that we don't see. They might be helping other team members, and we might not be privy of that. It's important to have a proven track record of the conversation we've had with this person and set up some gate checks, some recurring gate checks where we track how the situation is evolving. And then making sure that all the evidence that we collect is shared. So after that, we can move on to the improvement plan. So if we see that it was not a one-off, we see it's a recurring thing, and this person is not able to get out of it on their own, we can set up some catch-ups, perhaps weekly, but giving enough notice. So this person does not need to be caught off guard by our request. They need to be aware that there's a conversation that is about to happen. It's about to frame our feedback with concrete examples, so we can think about a delivery that was missed because of a specific behavior. We can think about a production bug that was introduced because of an overlook of an oversight in some of the processes. And then the plan needs to be agreed upon. So we need to be clear on the time horizon when we expect to see an improvement, and constantly following up. We also need to think about the person we are talking to as a human and empathize with them. Are they facing family issues? do they have a problem at home that we are not aware of? Sometimes the performance of a person can be affected by what happens outside of work, and we need to be able to support the person in this case. Sometimes there come a point when it's time to cut our losses. So we tried. We've been as fair as we could, and there was no way out of it. So if we don't see that there's an incremental progress, although minimal over time, if we see that this person is not committed to improving their performance, we tried to move the person around in other teams or in other roles, and we don't see a change. It's time to involve HR and legal if needed, and then make the cut. In doing this, it's important that as leaders, we think about our own biases. The biases can be harder to spot because they're not something we see. Other people can help us see our biases, but it's very difficult for us to be aware of those. So we can think about the idea we have in mind for a person playing a role. So if we say that a data scientist has to be a 60-year-old male with a long white beard, and that person doesn't fit that profile, can it be that maybe we don't see the person with the similar level of expertise that we expect, and that could be one of the reasons at least. So we can think about our internal biases and if we should ask for a second opinion. We could go also to the opposite extreme where we over-empathize. We are told that there's a problem or that they are sad because of a certain situation, and we leave them breathing room so that they have some time to recover. But then we can go to the extreme of saying, okay, you had a problem 3 years ago. I still feel bad for you, so it's fine that you work 1 day a week. That's a little bit too much. So circling back to what we are saying, having low performers in the team and in the organization has a series of detrimental effects. So whenever we see that this isn't working, we're given a fair chance. We're giving it a fair chance, and it's still things are not changing. It's time to cut our losses. All right. So we covered the good practices for measuring developer productivity, the bad practices we've seen in many modern companies, and what the data tells us about improving developer productivity over time. And finally, we covered how to deal with low performance. I hope it was helpful. I'm very happy to be here with you today.